You remember everything so vividly. Have you ever sat quietly, maybe in your favorite recliner, and simply pondered, when did things change between me and my children? You raised them for years, even decades. The nappies were changed by you. Throughout all those restless nights, you remained awake, and you helped them navigate both their greatest victories and their first heartbreaks. To make their goals come true, you sacrificed your own weekends, vacations, and occasionally, let's be honest, even your own aspirations. And today, when you say something, they cut you off. When you give them your tough counsel, they ignore it. They are suddenly too busy when you need a little assistance. The deepest wound is the worst of all.
You feel as though you've become invisible, maybe even in your own house. Please know you are not alone if you are experiencing a familiar emotion or an ache in your chest at this moment. As a physician who has dealt with families for more than 40 years, I have witnessed many amazing parents go through this exact difficult time in their lives. The roles begin to change. You used to be their teacher, their defender, and the person they went to for anything. However, it seems like they no longer view you in the same manner. At times, they are more of an annoyance than a guidance. Even worse, they make you feel like a burden, and that kind of pain is more profound than nearly anything else.
It's normal to want to respond, to remind them of everything you've done, to become enraged, to yell, or even just to retreat entirely. You might be surprised by the truth, though, which I have witnessed repeatedly in my profession. Demanding respect nearly never results in its return. Something far more potent is what really works. It's much more respectable. That is just what we will discuss today, as there are straightforward yet meaningful things you may begin doing immediately. That has the power to drastically change how your kids perceive and interact with you, through peaceful limits, quiet strength, and most crucially, self-respect, rather than guilt or conflict. These are not ruses. These are genuine, useful life changes that can give you the respect and connection you deserve. I want to honor the experience in this room before we get started. Please take a moment to leave a simple yes in the space provided below if you have ever felt invisible or overlooked, even just occasionally. I'm not interested in it. It's for one another. You are really not alone in this, you know. All right, let's begin. Now, let's begin with the first and possibly most frequent error I encounter in my work. This is the result of making an excessive effort to impress. Have you ever said yes when every single part of you wanted to say no? To maintain harmony, you agreed. Or perhaps you've gone above and beyond to help your kids, even if it made you uncomfortable or cost you money or time that you didn't have, just so they wouldn't be angry with you. This is something that a lot of parents do without even realizing it has become a habit. Perhaps, even though you weren't feeling well, you changed your entire schedule and abruptly canceled your own doctor's appointment to watch the grandchildren. Or maybe you've been in a scenario when you allowed someone to speak to you in a way that made your stomach turn, but you chose to remain silent. To avoid coming across as challenging, you remained silent. I've spent 40 years observing families, and this is what I've discovered. And this is the main issue. They will eventually show you less respect the more you strive for their acceptance. Now, this isn't because they are unappreciative or evil individuals. It's due to a deeply ingrained aspect of human nature. Our natural tendency is to favor what endures rather than what consistently yields. You are subtly teaching children that your wants are unimportant when you are always bending over backwards. I am reminded of Eleanor, a lovely patient I knew for many years. She had brought up 3 kids and provided them with everything. However, she began to step back more and more as she grew older, particularly after her husband's death. She gave them the authority to decide on everything pertaining to her house, health, and finances. She once said to me, "I just want to keep the family together. Doctor, it's not worth a fight." However, something unfortunate occurred. They stopped listening to her the more she caved. When she did eventually voice an opinion, they would simply do what they pleased and give her a pat on the hand. She believed she was being considerate. She believed she was keeping the peace. However, what they observed and discovered was someone they no longer needed to take seriously. You see, sacrifice is not the source of respect. Self-respect is the source of it. When you start prioritizing others before yourself, you subtly convey to those around you that their needs, voice, and time are more important than your own, and people react to that message, including our kids. So let me be clear if this sounds even slightly familiar. It's time to quit bending over backwards. Saying no is acceptable. Setting boundaries is okay. When anything doesn't feel right, you are free to voice your concerns. You are free to occupy space without their consent. It does not imply rudeness. It simply means demonstrating to yourself and your kids the value of your time, effort, and presence. You are the first to be respected. This leads us to the second major error, which frequently occurs immediately following the failure of the first. This is what happens when people argue. Our initial instinct is to push back when someone denigrates us or speaks down to us. You might want to whip out the history card or say something like, "How dare you speak to me that way? After all of my sacrifices, can you still recall what I have done for you?" Even while that reaction might seem appropriate at the time, in my experience, it seldom ever succeeds. Actually, it usually just makes the situation worse. It challenges them to engage in a power struggle. It transforms the discussion into an argument that no one can prevail in. This has the power to genuinely change your experience. Put an end to your arguments. Take the lead. This is the main explanation. It truly demonstrates that the other person still has influence over your inner serenity when you react to disrespect with rage or loud emotional outbursts. In essence, you are allowing them to determine how you feel. However, it conveys a quite different impression when you reply with cool, collected assurance. "I don't need to raise my voice. I know who I am, and your behavior doesn't get to rock my foundation. Let me tell you about Arthur." I knew Arthur as a retired high school teacher. For more than 30 years, he was respected by the children in his classroom. He exuded a calm authority. However, things were different at home with his grown children. They hardly paid attention. At dinner, they chatted over him. They made fun of his retirement plans and disregarded his worries about his own finances. Arthur first retaliated. After all, he was a teacher. He was a skilled debater. Every discussion devolved into a dispute. Every argument in the family ended in yelling, and still nothing altered. They only perceived him as an irritable elderly man. Then something changed. Arthur made the decision to give up fighting. He simply came to a halt. He continued to express his opinions, but he did so in a composed manner and without any desire to succeed. He began to live up to their esteem instead of pursuing it. His demeanor suggested that he already had nothing to prove. And an incredible thing took place. His kids started to take attention. They appeared to pay closer attention the less he argued. They began to ask him what he thought. He stopped playing that same old tiresome game, not because he yelled more loudly. Respect doesn't need to be fought for. All you can do is experience it. Allow your serenity to become your strength. Allow your voice to convey your power. You don't have to persuade your kids of your value. Even in your presence, they will sense it. Let's go on to our third point. I can assure you that this one is the most liberating, even if it may feel weighty. This is an emotional dependence error. It can be difficult to accept this truth. Your children are not necessary for your emotional fulfillment. That does not negate your intense love for them. You do, of course. That love is a fundamental aspect of who you are and always will be. However, the more you rely on them to make you feel valued, content, or entire, the more the dynamic changes in an unhealthy way. It leaves you waiting all the time and places an unachievable weight on them. Waiting for the visit, waiting for the phone to ring. This is its psychological foundation. People are inherently drawn to and respected to emotionally independent people, including our own children. They start to view you differently when your contentment and tranquility come from within rather than from how frequently they call, how kind they are, or how much they do for you. They no longer perceive you as someone who is dependent on them for approval, or as someone who is holding on to the past. They perceive you as having a fulfilling life of their own. And that's appealing. That is admirable. Carol comes to mind. She was a kind person who had devoted her entire being to her kids. However, she was devastated when they grew up and went away. She confided in me that she felt hollow. She stood beside the phone, waiting. Every day, she gave them a call. She would leave these lengthy, depressing voicemails, telling them how much she missed them and inquiring as to what had occurred and why they hadn't called. They began to retreat even further. She was unable to comprehend. "I'm simply showing them affection." "Why aren't they returning it?" she would ask. Eventually, after much discussion, Carol made the decision to concentrate on herself. She enrolled in a dance class, something she had desired to do for 30 years. She began going to lunch with pals. She resumed her painting and reading. She burst out laughing once more. Are you aware of what transpired? Her phone began to ring more frequently. Her kids were phoning her. They were curious about her life. Since she was no longer pursuing them, they missed her more than simply her attention. Just by experiencing life to the fullest, she was drawing everything in. Therefore, please remind yourself that your value is not determined by how much attention you receive from them if you've been experiencing the ache in your chest when they don't call, or the quiet grief when they don't visit. Originates within you, and the more you cultivate that inner light, the more people, including your kids, will naturally and respectfully gravitate towards it. This brings us right to our fourth error. And this, in my view, is the basis for everything else. This is the error of lacking limits. Now, when I say limits, people sometimes see walls and excluding others. This isn't what it is. Walls are not the essence of boundaries. Their purpose is to teach people how to treat you. They are the compassionate, unambiguous guidelines you provide to the world regarding what is and is not appropriate. Unbelievably, a lot of adult children push boundaries because they were never clearly defined from the start, not because they are purposefully harsh or disrespectful. Consider it. If your kids frequently interrupt you, make important life decisions without consulting you, or talk to you in a way that makes you feel insignificant, it's probably not because they decided to be cruel one day. The reason for this is that those actions were once permitted, possibly years ago. They were never fixed. Perhaps it was motivated by love. Perhaps it was just a wish to stay out of trouble.
Oh, they're just stressed. Or, that's just how they are, you told yourself. This is the crucial fundamental reality, though. Silence that is repeated over time becomes consent, and love without boundaries eventually evolves into resentment. I'll tell you about Richard. He was a proud businessman in retirement. He was regarded by everyone he had ever worked with and exuded confidence in every setting. However, things were different at home with his older children. They cut him off in the middle of his sentence. When he gave advice, they rolled their eyes. They addressed him as though he was incapable of managing his own life. He initially chose to ignore it. There's no point in arguing. He believed that he desired tranquility. However, each time he remained silent, they persisted a little more until one day, during a family meal, one of his sons yelled at him for giving a straightforward tale. Richard underwent a transformation that evening. He didn't scream. He didn't make fun of them. He just bided his time. Once the situation had subsided, he spoke to his kid in a composed, although forceful manner. After that, there was silence. But something significant had occurred. You don't have to agree with everything I say, but I expect to be spoken to with respect, and if that's not possible, I'll excuse myself from conversations like this. He made no threats. He refrained from arguing. He simply clarified it. This is the norm. This is what I permit while I'm around. And eventually, it was successful. His kids understood that he meant it. They started to win his engagement instead of losing him. The new dynamic included respect. He needed it, not because he asked for it. Control is not the goal of boundaries. They have to do with clarity. The people in your life, yes, even your kids, start to behave differently when you set clear limits. Okay, so this is our fifth error. Parents may find this particularly challenging because it seems to go against our basic nature. This is the overgiving error. You are fully aware of what I mean. You offer to assist. You offer counsel because it's what you've always done. You donate your time, energy, and occasionally even money. The helper is you. The provider is you. Perhaps you're not even doing it to obtain something back in your heart.
Even still, it stings when it is ignored. When people fail to express gratitude, it hurts. When they take and take without ever stopping to see how you're doing. From a psychological perspective, this is the issue. You don't educate people to love you more when you continue to give without setting limits or expecting anything in return. They learn to have higher expectations from you. Your generosity gradually ceases to be a gift. It simply turns into background noise. It becomes into something they no longer even notice. It's simply what dad is for or what mom does. Walter, a father of 3, was one of my patients, and he was always there to help. Even if it put a strain on his personal retirement budget, he would lend money without hesitation.
Anytime they needed assistance moving or fixing something, he would be there. He informed me that, even in his 70s, he made last-minute changes to his own doctor's appointments in order to babysit. However, none of his kids offered to remain with him following a minor surgery, a knee replacement. Everybody had something going on. They simply thought he would be all right. He told me that something cracked inside of him at that very moment, but he hesitated rather than snapping. He thought. After that, he made a silent but resolute choice. No more reflexive yes. He would help from now on, but only when it was really needed, when it suited him and when it was valued. He didn't grow resentful. He simply became obvious. His children were initially perplexed when they called for last-minute assistance, but he would calmly respond, "I'd love to, but I have other plans that day." Or, "I'm happy to assist with that if you can handle X, Y, and Z first." They were even a little irritated. However, they soon started expressing greater appreciation. Because the assistance was no longer expected, they began saying, "Thank you again." It was appreciated. In actuality, people start to value your presence once again when you step back just enough to let them feel the impact of your absence. You don't have to quit being nice, but unconditional kindness. In the end, it is detrimental to both you and them. This brings us to our last point. This isn't so much an error as it's the fundamental truth that opens the door to the answers to all the others. You are more than a parent. I'll reiterate that since it's crucial. You are more than a parent. You are an individual. You are a whole individual with your own life, aspirations, time, and identity. Building a life that exists outside of your children is one of the most empowering, healing, and respect-building things you can do for both yourself and your kids. I understand that may sound weird at first. Perhaps you prioritized your family for decades, 30, 40, or 50 years. Perhaps you said to yourself, "I'll start taking care of myself. I'll start my hobbies once the kids are settled." However, now that the kids are grown, you are in a different stage of life. What fills my cup, you ask? Because this is what takes place. And I have personally witnessed this change. When your kids realize you're not only waiting, but actually living, they respect you when they observe that you are enthusiastic, involved, and active. They respect you and are drawn to you. They don't respect you out of guilt. They perceive someone who exudes dignity and purpose, not because they feel obligated. You are not merely here to help them. You are here to live life to the fullest. You are here to rediscover aspects of yourself that you may have placed on hold for a very long period. Whether it's taking the class you've always wanted to take, learning a new hobby, traveling, even if it's just to the next state, reuniting with old friends, or just spending your mornings reading a wonderful book at your own speed. You are free to put your own happiness first. And something lovely occurs when you do. Your kids begin to view you as someone who is there to support them rather than just as their parents. The basis of genuine, enduring respect is when others begin to perceive you as a complete, vivid person with a unique story, strength, and brightness. Now, as you start to put these ideas into practice, as you start to respect your own boundaries, speak up when necessary, and let go of those old, burdensome expectations, you might start to notice something profound.
Tension starts to subside. The weight you've been dragging around on your chest begins to lessen. You're no longer hoping for a few pieces of gratitude or being cautious in your own home. You're standing tall once more. This is the core of it all. It's not because your kids have changed all of a sudden. You have, which is why. And the secret is really that. You see, we can't make other people respect us. We cannot demand it, argue for it, or coerce them into giving it. Simply by the way we choose to live, we quietly and effectively influence it. Everything else starts to come together as soon as you start living with greater self-respect. Let's take another look at something straightforward that is frequently overlooked in the chaos of daily life. You are important. You are significant. Just because you are you, the world, and your family, not because of what you provide or how much you've accomplished. They require the calm, clear, and self-assured version of you, the version of yourself who stands in their truth with love rather than shrinking to maintain harmony. Everything is different in that version. And don't forget this important distinction. Respect and love are two different things. They are not the same thing. You can set boundaries while still loving your kids with all of your heart. It's not harsh to say, I won't be spoken to that way, even if you genuinely care about them. That's good for you. That is the appearance of genuine, mature, and loving partnerships. It gives your kids permission when they see that you respect yourself. It encourages people to appreciate you as well. They start to respect you once more when they witness you leading a fulfilling life. Not out of duty, but out of true regard. I want you to carefully ask yourself this question today. Silently ask yourself, where am I still giving my power away? Is it the way you consistently say yes even when you really want to say no but are exhausted? Is it because you don't speak up when your hard-won wisdom and voice should be heard? Or perhaps it's the way you continue to wait for their approval in order to feel good about yourself. Start there, wherever that may be. Make one tiny adjustment. Perhaps it's saying, I actually have other plans today, but I'd love to see you another time. Perhaps it's simply gently telling your child, I need to be spoken to respectfully. Perhaps it's simply taking that afternoon to finally attend the class you've been putting off. It only requires one tiny step. I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. If this message struck a chord with you, or if you've ever sat with that deep, silent anguish of feeling ignored or underappreciated, you're worthy of better. It's because of who you are now, not because of what you did in the past. As we come to a close, we've looked at some quite genuine and therapeutic changes in our behavior. However, as I always remind my patients, knowledge is only effective when it is used. I have a crucial question for you now. After seeing this video, what one promise are you making to yourself? It may be as easy as starting that pastime I've been putting off, saying no at least once this week, or speaking out when I feel ignored. In the comments section below, please express your personal commitment. It serves as a self-promise and a reminder to those in our community that they are not alone. Let's encourage one another to take that courageous first step. And please give this video a thumbs up if you thought our time together today was truly worthwhile or even just a little consoling. It really does make it easier for others to locate this kind of stuff. Additionally, if you haven't already, I would appreciate it if you would click the small bell and the subscribe button. It goes beyond simply subscribing. It's becoming a part of a group of friends committed to sharing this journey with honor. Lastly, consider one person who needs to hear this message today, perhaps a sister, friend, or someone in your life, and please share it with them. You may be providing them with the necessary support. Regaining your voice is something you can do at any age. Rebuilding respect is always possible. I appreciate you taking the time to be with me.
You deserve it. You are not alone, and you are strong. Until the next time, be careful and keep in mind that the strongest message you can send is to live with dignity.